The antiseptic smell of the clinic clung to my clothes as I locked the back door, my fingers fumbling with the keys in the October darkness. 6 years of working at Paws and Care Veterinary had taught me to recognize the difference between a routine night and one that would change everything. This was supposed to be routine. My daughter Lily sat on the worn bench near the entrance, her backpack at her feet, scribbling in her homework notebook under the dim security light. At 9 years old, she'd spent more evenings in this clinic than most kids her age, patient and understanding in ways that made my chest tighten with guilt. She deserved better than a mother who couldn't afford childcare, who brought her to work during evening shifts because there was no other option. "Almost done, sweetheart," I called, sorting through the day's paperwork. My best friend and colleague, Sarah Collins, had left an hour earlier, her cheerful wave and promise to cover morning rounds still lingering in my mind. The sound of tires on gravel made me look up. A black SUV pulled into the parking lot, its headlights cutting through the darkness. We'd closed 20 minutes ago, but emergencies didn't follow business hours. I straightened, watching as a man emerged from the driver's side. Large, imposing, wearing a dark suit that seemed out of place in our modest neighborhood clinic. He carried something wrapped in a blanket, moving with urgent purpose toward the door. I was already reaching for my keys again before he knocked. "We're closed. But if it's an emergency," I began. And then I saw the blood soaking through the fabric he held. "My boss's dog," the man said, his voice rough with concern. "Got caught in crossfire. Bullet wound. Our usual vet is out of town, and this was the closest place." Crossfire. The word hung between us, heavy with implications I didn't want to consider. But the whimper from the bundle in his arms made the decision for me. "Bring him in," I said, already moving toward the surgery prep area. "Lily, go to the break room, please." "Mom, is the dog going to be okay?" Her voice was small, worried. She'd inherited my soft heart for animals. "I'm going to do everything I can. Sarah's emergency kit should have her iPad. You can watch something until I'm finished." Lily gathered her things without complaint, casting one concerned glance at the bleeding animal before disappearing down the hallway. The man followed me into the examination room, laying the dog carefully on the steel table. A golden retriever, probably 3 or 4 years old, with intelligent eyes clouded by pain. "What's his name?" I asked, already assessing the wound. "Entry point in the shoulder, possibly still lodged in the muscle." "Duke." I worked quickly, administering pain medication and setting up for surgery. The man, who introduced himself only as Joseph, watched with the kind of intensity that suggested he'd seen worse injuries than this. On people, probably. I tried not to think about what kind of employer kept staff who spoke casually about crossfire, who had dogs that got shot. "How did this happen?" I asked, more to fill the silence than because I expected an honest answer. "Wrong place, wrong time," Joseph replied. "The boss was leaving a business meeting. Rival organization thought they'd send a message." My hands stilled for only a moment. Rival organization. This wasn't a random mugging or a street crime. This was something organized, something dangerous. But Duke whimpered again, and I pushed the fear aside. The dog needed me. The surgery took an hour. The bullet had lodged in muscle tissue, missing the major arteries by centimeters. I removed it carefully, stitched the wound, and administered antibiotics. By the time I finished, my scrubs were spattered with blood, and exhaustion pulled at my bones. "He'll need to stay overnight for observation," I said, washing my hands at the sink. "I can't let him leave until I'm certain there's no internal bleeding I missed." Joseph nodded, pulling out his phone. "I'll let the boss know." He stepped away, speaking in low tones I couldn't quite hear. When he returned, something in his expression had shifted. Assessment, maybe. Approval. "You did good work," he said. "The boss will want to thank you personally. He's particular about Duke." "That's not necessary. The fee for emergency surgery will be paid in full, plus compensation for your after-hours work." He pulled out a business card, blank except for a phone number. "He'll be in touch." I took the card, unsure what else to do. Joseph left shortly after, promising to return in the morning for Duke. I checked on the dog once more, satisfied that his vitals were stable, before finally collecting Lily from the break room. She'd fallen asleep on the couch, the iPad dark beside her. I scooped her up, marveling as I always did at how she was growing, how she was getting too big for me to carry like this. Soon she'd be too heavy, too old. The thought brought an unexpected sting to my eyes. In the car, Lily stirred, blinking sleepily. "Is the dog okay?" "He's going to be fine," I assured her. "We'll check on him tomorrow. You're really good at your job, Mom." The simple faith in her voice made my throat tight. "Thank you, baby." As I drove us home through Boston's quiet streets, I thought about the business card in my pocket, about the man named Joseph and his employer, who inspired such obvious loyalty, about the word crossfire and what it meant to live in a world where that was a casual explanation. I thought about the photos in the shoebox under my bed, the ones I'd shown Lily countless times. Pictures of a young man with dark eyes and an easy smile, taken 10 years ago when the world had seemed full of possibility, before he'd vanished without explanation, leaving me pregnant and alone. Lucas Valentasi, the only man I'd ever loved. The father Lily asked about with heartbreaking regularity, wanting to know why he'd left, if he'd ever come back, if he thought about them. I always told her the same thing. Your father loved us very much. But sometimes grown-ups make difficult choices. It doesn't mean he didn't care. It was a careful lie, one I'd crafted to protect her from the truth that I didn't know why he'd left. Why 3 months after he disappeared I'd discovered I was carrying his child. Why every attempt to find him had led nowhere. He'd transferred out of Boston University mid-semester, changed his phone number, left no forwarding address. It was as if he'd been erased from existence. I'd spent months trying to track him down, even hired a private investigator I couldn't afford. Nothing. Lucas Valentasi had simply vanished. So I'd done what I had to do. Finished my degree while pregnant, working double shifts to pay for veterinary school, building a life for Lily from sheer determination and student loans I'd still be paying off when she graduated high school. Sarah had been there through all of it, the only friend who hadn't drifted away when my life became complicated. Now Lily was 9, bright and curious, and so much like her father. It sometimes hurt to look at her. She had his eyes, that same deep brown that seemed to see everything, his stubborn chin, his quick mind that absorbed information like a sponge. 3 days after Duke's surgery, an envelope arrived at the clinic. Inside was payment for the procedure, generous enough to make me double-check the amount, and something else. An invitation, printed on heavy cream cardstock. Annual Charity Gala, benefiting Boston Animal Welfare Foundation, Fairmont Copley Plaza. Black tie, optional. A handwritten note was tucked inside. Your skill saved Duke's life. It would be an honor if you'd attend as my guest. Transport and appropriate attire will be provided. Bring your daughter if you wish. She shouldn't have to wait alone while her mother works. It wasn't signed, but I knew who it was from. The mysterious boss who valued his dog enough to send Joseph racing across the city for emergency care. Part of me wanted to decline, to keep my distance from whatever world-produced men who spoke casually about Crossfire. But the date was a Saturday, and Lily had been asking to see Duke, worried about the sweet-natured retriever who'd whimpered so pitifully on my surgery table. And if I was honest, curiosity gnawed at me. Who was this man? Why did he care enough to invite me to a charity event? I showed the invitation to Sarah during our lunch break. She whistled low. The Fairmont? Jessica, that's serious money. Are you going to go? I don't know. It feels strange. Strange how? Someone's grateful you saved their dog. This is a nice gesture. Joseph mentioned rival organizations. I said quietly. Crossfire. Sarah, I think the man who owns Duke might be... I trailed off, unable to say it out loud. Saying it made it real, made it a choice I was actively considering rather than something that had simply happened. Sarah's expression grew serious. You think he's connected? Connected. Such a careful word for what we both knew she meant. Maybe. I don't know. Probably I'm overthinking it. Do you want to go? Did I? The practical part of me knew I should decline politely, maintain professional distance, avoid getting involved with someone whose dog got shot in Crossfire. But another part, the part that had been dormant for 10 years, felt a small spark of curiosity. When was the last time I'd dressed up, attended an event that wasn't Lily's school function? When had I last done something just for me? Maybe, I admitted, Lily would love it. She's been so patient, spending all her free time here because I can't afford a sitter. Then go, Sarah urged. One night won't hurt, and it's for charity. What's the worst that could happen? I should have known better than to ask that question, even hypothetically. The universe had a dark sense of humor about such things. The dress arrived 2 days later, delivered to my apartment by courier. Deep red silk, elegant without being ostentatious, with a matching wrap and shoes in my exact size. Tucked inside was another note. For Saturday. A car will collect you at 7. He'd known my size, my shoe size, my address. The attention to detail should have unnerved me more than it did. Instead, I found myself trying on the dress that evening, while Lily did homework at the kitchen table. You look like a princess, she breathed when I emerged from the bedroom. It's too much, I said, studying myself in the mirror, but I didn't take it off. Are we really going to a fancy party? It's not a party exactly. It's a fundraiser for animal shelters. I smoothed the fabric over my hips. Sarah offered to come with us, help keep an eye on you. Lily's face lit up. Can I wear my Christmas dress? Her Christmas dress was dark green velvet, purchased on clearance last January because it had been too good a deal to pass up. With her dark curls and Lucas's eyes, she'd look beautiful. Yes, sweetheart, you can wear your Christmas dress. Saturday arrived with the kind of autumn clarity that made Boston magnificent. All golden light and crisp air. I spent the day anxious and second-guessing, but when the car arrived precisely at 7, sleek and black with a professional driver, Lily's excitement was contagious. Sarah met us at the Fairmont, elegant in a charcoal dress she'd borrowed from her sister. Ready for an adventure? She asked, squeezing my hand. The ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers cast prismed light across tables draped in cream and gold. Women in designer gowns mingled with men in tailored tuxedos. I felt immediately out of place, a veterinarian in borrowed silk pretending to belong among Boston's elite. Stay close, I murmured to Lily, who was wide-eyed at the decorations. Massive arrangements of white roses and gold-painted branches created a forest of elegance. We found our table near the center of the room, Sarah making conversation with the other guests while I tried to calm my racing heart. This had been a mistake. I didn't belong here. I should gather Lily and leave before— Look at all the balloons! Lily suddenly exclaimed, pointing to a cluster of gold helium balloons drifting near the ceiling. Before I could stop her, she slipped from her chair and darted between tables, chasing the balloons with the single-minded determination of a child who'd spotted something wonderful. I rose quickly, apologizing to our table mates, and followed her through the crowd. Lily, come back here, I called, trying to keep my voice low. But she was fast, weaving between guests with the agility of youth. I lost sight of her for a moment, panic flaring, and then I spotted her. She'd stopped, frozen in place, staring up at a man who stood talking to a group of businessmen. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Dark hair touched with gray at the temples, a strong jaw, an air of authority that made everyone around him seem diminished. I pushed through the final cluster of guests and reached Lily's side, grabbing her hand. I'm so sorry, I began, looking up at the man. She got excited about the decorations and the words died in my throat. 10 years. 10 years of wondering, of searching, of showing Lily photographs and telling her stories about her father. 10 years of building a life alone. And there he was, Lucas Valentasi, older, harder, with lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before, but unmistakably him. The same dark eyes, the same presence that had drawn me to him a decade ago. He was staring at Lily, his face draining of color as he recognized what I'd seen the moment she was born. She had his eyes, his chin, the same way of tilting her head when she was processing something new. Lily looked from him to the photo she'd undoubtedly memorized from the box under my bed. I watched the realization dawn on her young face, watched her piece together the man in the picture and the man standing before her. I think you're my father, she said, her voice clear and certain in the sudden silence that had fallen around us. Lucas's eyes snapped to mine, recognition and shock warring in his expression. The room seemed to hold its breath. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. could only stand there clutching Lily's hand while my past collided catastrophically with my present. His face went pale, absolutely bloodless as he stared at me. At the woman he'd abandoned, at the daughter he'd never known existed. Time fractured into fragments. The ballroom noise faded to white static. Lucas stared at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. His jaw clenched so tightly I could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. The businessman he'd been speaking with melted away, sensing the shift in atmosphere. The sudden tension that made the air feel charged and dangerous. Jessica. My name emerged rough, disbelieving. He took a step forward, then stopped as if some invisible barrier prevented him from getting closer. His eyes dropped to Lily, who still held my hand, her small fingers gripping mine with increasing tightness as she sensed something was wrong. I found my voice, though it came out steadier than I felt. We should go. Lily, come on. Wait. Lucas's hand shot out, not touching me, but blocking our path. Please, just wait. There's nothing to say. The words tasted like ash. 10 years of wondering, of building walls around the hurt he'd caused. And here he stood in a tuxedo that probably cost more than I made in 3 months, looking at our daughter as if she were a ghost. There's everything to say. His voice dropped lower, urgent. Not here. Somewhere private. Sarah appeared at my elbow, her face pale but determined. Jessica, maybe you should hear him out. I wanted to refuse. Wanted to grab Lily and run, just as I'd wanted to do 10 years ago when I'd realized he wasn't coming back. But Lily's eyes were fixed on Lucas with an intensity that made my chest ache. She'd spent 9 years wondering about her father, asking questions I couldn't answer. Didn't she deserve to hear whatever excuse he could offer? 5 minutes, I said coldly. That's all you get. Lucas nodded, relief flickering across his features. He gestured toward the exit, and I noticed for the first time that Joseph stood nearby, his presence no longer coincidental. He'd known. When he brought Duke to my clinic, when he watched me work, he'd known exactly who I was. We followed Lucas through the ballroom, Sarah trailing behind with a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. People watched us pass, their curiosity evident even through polite smiles. Lucas led us to a private office off the main corridor, wood-paneled and elegant, clearly set aside for the hotel's most important guests. Once inside, he closed the door and turned to face us. In the brighter light, I could see the changes that 10 years had carved into his features. Harder lines around his mouth, silver threading through his dark hair, a wariness in his eyes that hadn't existed in the boy I'd loved. "You're Duke's owner," I said, because it was easier than addressing the larger truth standing between us. "Yes." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I remembered from late night studying together, from lazy Sunday mornings in his dorm room. "I need to explain." "You need to explain why you disappeared?" Anger broke through my carefully maintained composure. "Why you changed your number, transferred schools, vanished without a single word. I was pregnant, Lucas. 3 months pregnant when I finally accepted you weren't coming back." His face went ashen. "You tried to reach me?" "Of course I tried to reach you." My voice rose, and I forced myself to breathe, aware of Lily watching us with wide eyes. "I called everyone I could think of. Your roommate said you'd transferred. Your parents' number was disconnected. It was like you'd been erased from existence. I didn't know." The words came out strangled. "Jessica, I swear to you, I didn't know you were pregnant. I didn't know about—" His gaze shifted to Lily, softening in a way that made my throat tight. "About her. Why did you leave?" The question I'd asked myself 1,000 times, lying awake at night while Lily slept beside me in our cramped studio apartment. Lucas's jaw worked. My father. He found out about us, about the life I was trying to build separate from the family business. He gave me an ultimatum. Come home and take my place in the organization or be cut off completely. No money, no protection, no family. And if I refused, he paused, his eyes haunted. He made it clear you would be in danger, that anyone I cared about would become a liability. So you just left. Bitterness colored every word, without explaining, without giving me a choice. I was 22 and terrified. His voice cracked. My father was not a man you refused. The things he threatened to do to you if I didn't comply. He shook his head. I thought if I disappeared completely, if you had no way to contact me, you'd move on. You'd be safe. Safe? I laughed, the sound harsh. I was alone and pregnant, working 2 jobs to pay for veterinary school, barely scraping by. That's the safety you gave me. I'm sorry. The words fell flat, inadequate. If I had known, would it have changed anything? I challenged. Would you have defied your father, stayed with me, risked whatever consequences he threatened? Silence answered me, and that silence said everything I needed to know. Lily's voice broke the tension. What's your name? Lucas crouched down to her level, and I saw his hands trembling slightly. Lucas Valentasi. I'm Lily. She studied him with the directness only children possess. You look like the pictures Mom showed me. From when you were younger. What did your mother tell you about me? Lily glanced at me, uncertain. I nodded, giving her permission. She said you loved us very much, but you had to go away. That it wasn't because of anything I did, because I wasn't born yet. She said sometimes grown-ups make hard choices. Lucas's eyes closed briefly, and when they opened, they were bright with unshed tears. Your mother was right. I did love her. I do love her. And you, his voice broke. You're beautiful. Smart. I can see it in your eyes. I'm 9, Lily offered. I like animals. I want to be a veterinarian like Mom when I grow up. 9? Lucas repeated the number as if it were a prayer or a curse. 9 years I missed. First steps, first words, birthdays. You don't get to do that, I interrupted, my voice sharp. You don't get to mourn the life you chose to abandon. You made your decision, Lucas. You chose your father's empire over us. He stood, facing me fully. You're right. I did. I made the wrong choice, Jessica, and I've regretted it every single day since. But I can't change the past. I can only... The sound of shattering glass cut him off. One moment we stood in tense conversation. The next, the window behind Lucas's desk exploded inward. I reacted on instinct, grabbing Lily and pulling her behind me as Lucas threw himself forward, covering both of us with his body. More glass rained down, and I felt the whisper of something passing overhead, too fast to see. Lucas's weight pressed me down, his arms wrapped around Lily and me, shielding us from the danger I couldn't fully process. Stay down, he commanded, his voice transformed from pleading to authoritative in a heartbeat. Joseph burst through the door, weapon drawn, followed by 2 other men I hadn't noticed at the event. Sniper, northeast building. One of them reported tersely. Missed by inches. Get them out, Lucas ordered. Back exit, use my car. Full security detail. What about you, boss? I'll follow. Just get them somewhere safe, now. I tried to process what was happening as Joseph hauled me to my feet, his grip firm but careful. Sarah grabbed Lily, who had gone silent with shock. We were ushered out of the office, through a service corridor I hadn't known existed, downstairs that seemed to descend forever. The garage beneath the hotel was dimly lit, filled with expensive cars that gleamed under fluorescent lights. Joseph directed us toward a black SUV, bulletproof by the look of its reinforced construction. He opened the rear door, practically pushing us inside. Lily pressed against me, trembling. Mom, what's happening? I don't know, baby. I wrapped my arms around her, my own heart hammering. But we're okay. We're safe. Sarah slid in beside us, her face tight with fear. Jessica, this is insane. We need to call the police. No police. Lucas appeared at the vehicle, breathing hard. Blood stained his tuxedo jacket, though I couldn't tell if it was his. They can't help with this. Someone just shot at us, I said, hearing the hysteria creeping into my voice. At my daughter. At Lily. I know. His expression was grim. That's why you need to come with me. Both of you. It's not safe for you to go home. Are you insane? I'm not going anywhere with you. I'm taking my daughter home, calling the police, and they'll kill you. Lucas's bluntness cut through my panic. Jessica, the people who just tried to eliminate me saw you and Lily with me. In public, where everyone could witness the connection. They'll use that against me. Use you against me. Use us how? But I already knew. I'd watched enough movies, read enough news stories. Hostages, leverage, the innocent people caught in the crossfire of wars they didn't understand. Please. Lucas's voice gentled. I know you have no reason to trust me. I know I have no right to ask this. But let me protect you. Let me keep Lily safe while we figure out who made the hit and neutralize the threat. How long will that take? I don't know. Days, maybe weeks. But I have resources. Places that are completely secure. You'll be comfortable. You'll have everything you need. Except our freedom. I finished bitterly. Except the risk of being murdered by my enemies. His jaw set. I won't apologize for wanting to keep you alive. Sarah touched my arm. Jessica, I think he's right. Someone just tried to kill you. Whatever he's involved in, you're part of it now whether you want to be or not. I looked at Lily, at her pale face and frightened eyes, and felt the weight of impossible choices crushing down on me. Go with Lucas, and enter a world I'd spent 10 years avoiding, or refuse and risk that whoever had fired that shot would try again with better aim. If we do this, I said slowly, if we go with you, I need answers. Real answers, not the sanitized version you just gave me. I need to know exactly what kind of danger we're in and why. Lucas nodded. You'll have them. Every answer you want, I swear it. And Lily's safety comes first, above everything. Above you, above your business, above whatever vendetta someone has against you. Agreed. And I need to contact my clinic. Sarah needs to cover my shifts. My patients need care. I'll handle it, Sarah interjected. Don't worry about work. Just keep Lily safe. I hugged her briefly, drawing strength from her presence. Then I looked at Lucas, at the man who'd broken my heart and left me alone, who was now offering protection I didn't want to need. Where are we going? My home in Brookline. It's fortified private. No one gets in without going through multiple security checkpoints. He climbed into the front passenger seat, addressing the driver. Take us to the estate. Call ahead. Have the guest suite prepared. As the SUV pulled out of the garage, I held Lily close and watched the city lights blur past the tinted windows. Somewhere in the past hour, my carefully constructed life had collapsed. The independence I'd fought so hard for, the safety I'd built for my daughter, all of it gone in the space between a child's innocent question and a bullet fired through glass. Lucas turned in his seat, his dark eyes meeting mine. I meant what I said, Jessica. I never stopped loving you. And I will die before I let anyone hurt our daughter. Our daughter. He'd claimed her with those 2 words, acknowledged the bond that biology and abandonment couldn't erase. Part of me wanted to rage at him, to demand he explain how love could coexist with desertion. But Lily was listening, and I'd promised myself years ago that I wouldn't poison her against her father, no matter how much he'd hurt me. Just keep us safe, I said quietly. That's all I'm asking right now. He nodded, and something passed between us, fragile and tentative. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but perhaps the first step toward understanding. The road ahead stretched dark and uncertain, full of dangers I couldn't name and choices I wasn't ready to make. But for tonight, for this moment, we were alive. Lily was safe in my arms, and Lucas sat between us and whatever threat lurked in the shadows. The mansion emerged from the darkness like something out of a Gothic novel, all stone and iron gates that swung open silently as our convoy approached. Security cameras tracked our movement, discreet but unmistakable to anyone who knew to look for them. I held Lily closer, feeling her exhaustion seep through her trembling frame. It's big, she whispered, her voice small against the leather seats. It's temporary, I assured her, though I wasn't certain of anything anymore. The estate sprawled across what must have been several acres in Brookline, set back from the main road by a winding drive lined with trees that formed a natural barrier from prying eyes. The main building was 3 stories of pale stone with tall windows that gleamed in the floodlights. Classical architecture mixed with modern security features, creating an effect that was both elegant and fortress-like. Joseph parked near the front entrance where 2 men in dark suits waited. Lucas climbed out first, speaking quietly to them before opening my door. His hand extended to help me down, and I hesitated only briefly before taking it. His palm was warm, calloused in ways I didn't remember from 10 years ago. "The blue suite is ready," one of the guards reported. "Mrs. Romano has prepared refreshments." Lucas's jaw tightened at the name, but he nodded. "Thank you, Michael. Tell her we'll need clothing for a 9-year-old girl and her mother." "Size?" He glanced at me questioningly. "I can provide my own clothing," I said coldly. "Your apartment isn't safe to return to right now." His tone was patient but firm. "Please, Jessica, let me handle the details." I gave him Lily's size and my own, hating the necessity, hating the loss of control this entire situation represented. We followed Lucas through heavy double doors into a foyer that took my breath, despite my determination to remain unimpressed. Marble floors, a sweeping staircase, artwork that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Wealth displayed with the kind of confidence that came from generations of money and power. "This way." Lucas led us up the stairs, down a hallway decorated with what I suspected were original paintings. He stopped before a door near the end, opening it to reveal a suite that could have housed my entire apartment twice over. 2 bedrooms connected by a sitting area furnished in shades of cream and soft gray. Large windows overlooked the back gardens, though heavy curtains could be drawn for privacy. A bathroom visible through another door featured a soaking tub and separate shower. "There's a phone by the bed," Lucas explained, pointing to the bedside table. "Dial 0 for the kitchen, 1 for security, 2 for household staff. Anything you need, ask." "What I need is to go home," I said. But the protest sounded weak even to my ears. Lucas moved to the windows, checking that the locks were engaged. "In the morning, we'll talk. I'll explain everything, answer every question you have. But tonight, you both need rest." He turned to Lily, who watched him with wary curiosity. "Are you hungry? Thirsty?" She shook her head, pressing closer to me. "I'm tired." "Then sleep. You're safe here, I promise. No one gets past the gates without my permission, and there are guards at every entrance." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Jessica, I know you don't trust me. You have every reason not to. But I meant what I said. I will protect you both with my life." After he left, I helped Lily change into the pajamas that had been laid out. Soft cotton that fit her perfectly. Someone had anticipated our needs with unnerving accuracy. Mrs. Romano, whoever she was, had thought of everything from toiletries to slippers. "Mom, are we really in danger?" Lily asked as I tucked her into the massive bed. I sat beside her, smoothing her dark curls away from her face. "I don't know all the details yet, but Lucas seems to think someone might try to hurt us because they saw us together. Because he's my father?" The word still felt strange, too real after years of abstract explanations. "Yes, because you're his daughter, and bad people might try to use that against him." "Is he a bad person?" The question I'd been avoiding since the moment I recognized him. Was Lucas a bad person? He'd abandoned us, chosen his father's criminal empire over the life we could have built together. But he'd also thrown himself between us and a sniper's bullet, arranged this protection without hesitation. The truth was more complicated than good or bad. "I think he's made choices I don't agree with," I said carefully. "But he's trying to keep us safe now. That's what matters tonight." After Lily fell asleep, I stood at the window, staring out at the darkened grounds. Somewhere beyond those walls, someone wanted Lucas dead badly enough to take a shot at him in a crowded hotel. And now, Lily and I were caught in the crossfire of a war we didn't understand. My phone buzzed in my purse. Sarah had texted, "Let me know you're okay. I'll handle everything at the clinic. Don't worry about work." I typed back, "We're fine, safe. I'll call tomorrow." A soft knock at the door made me tense. I crossed the room quietly, checking through the peephole before opening it. Lucas stood in the hallway, changed out of his blood-stained tuxedo into dark jeans and a gray sweater that made him look younger, more like the man I'd known in college. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Just for a few minutes." I stepped into the hallway, pulling the door mostly closed behind me so our voices wouldn't wake Lily. "Make it quick." He ran a hand through his hair, that familiar gesture of frustration. "I need to explain about tonight. About who might have targeted us." "Us? You mean you?" "They were targeting you, Lucas. Lily and I just happened to be collateral damage. No. His voice was sharp. Once they saw you with me, saw Lily, you became targets yourselves. That's how this works. Family is leverage, Jessica. The triad of the Green Dragon has been trying to expand into territory my family controls. This was their move, showing they could reach me anywhere. Triad of the Green Dragon. The name sounded like something from a movie. You're telling me we're in danger from an organized crime syndicate because of something your family did. My family has controlled certain operations in Boston for 3 generations. Import, export, legitimate businesses mixed with less legitimate ones. The triad wants in, and they're willing to escalate violence to get what they want. He leaned against the wall, exhaustion evident in the lines around his eyes. When my father died 2 years ago, I inherited everything. The business, the enemies, the obligations. You could have walked away. Could I? His laugh was bitter. You think it works like that? That I could just resign, hand in my notice, and go work at a regular job? I'm in this for life, Jessica. The only way out is death. The blunt honesty chilled me. Then why did you invite me to that gala? Why risk exposing us to your enemies? Because I didn't know you existed. He met my eyes steadily. When Joseph brought Duke to your clinic, he did it on his own initiative. Our usual vet was unavailable and Duke was dying. Joseph made a judgment call. He reported back that he'd found a skilled veterinarian, competent and discreet. He didn't mention your name, and I didn't ask. The invitation was meant as a thank you, nothing more. Until Lily walked up to you and announced you were her father in front of half of Boston's elite. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache building behind my eyes. This is insane, Lucas. This entire situation is insane. I know. He stepped closer, and I caught the scent of his cologne, something expensive that still carried hints of the cedar aftershave he'd worn in college. But we're in it now, and I need you to trust that I can handle this. I've already reached out to the Triad leadership, proposed a meeting to discuss terms. Terms? They tried to kill you tonight, and I'll respond appropriately. But there are protocols, rules even in this world. They made their move, demonstrated their capability. Now we negotiate. I offer them something they want more than my territory, and they back off. And if they don't? His expression hardened, revealing glimpses of the man he'd become. Someone far more dangerous than the boy I'd loved. Then I eliminate the threat permanently. The casual way he said it sent ice down my spine. You mean kill them? I mean protect my family by any means necessary. I've built this organization on strategy and intelligence, not unnecessary violence. But I won't hesitate to defend what's mine. What's mine? He kept using that phrase, claiming ownership of Lily and me with the same confidence he probably claimed everything else in his life. We're not yours, Lucas. You don't get to make that claim after 10 years of absence. You're the mother of my child. That makes you mine to protect whether you like it or not. He held up a hand as I opened my mouth to protest. I'm not claiming ownership of you as a person, Jessica. I'm stating fact. In my world, family is everything. And you and Lily are my family, whether you accept that or not. I wanted to argue, to maintain the anger that had sustained me through 10 years of raising Lily alone. But exhaustion was winning, and the reality was that we needed his protection right now. Pride wouldn't stop a bullet. How long? I asked wearily. How long before we can go home? I don't know. Days, maybe a week. I need to confirm who ordered the hit, ensure they understand the consequences of targeting you again, and make arrangements for ongoing security. He paused. There's something else you should know. I'm having DNA testing done. My back stiffened. You think I'm lying about Lily being yours? No. Look at her, Jessica. She has my eyes, my features. I know she's mine. His voice gentled. But I need official confirmation for legal purposes. If something happens to me, I want her protected. That means documentation, inheritance rights, trust funds. She deserves the security my name can provide. The practical reasoning made sense, but it still stung. Fine. Do your tests. But don't expect me to suddenly welcome you into her life, as if the past 10 years didn't happen. I don't. He moved closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. But I'm asking for the chance to know her, Jessica. To be her father, not just the man in photographs you showed her. Will you give me that? The question hung between us, loaded with implications I wasn't ready to unpack. Lily deserved to know her father, deserved the relationship I'd always told her he wanted if circumstances allowed. But letting Lucas into her life meant letting him into mine, meant forgiving abandonment I'd never fully processed. We'll see, I said finally. Prove you can keep us safe. Prove this isn't just guilt or obligation, making you suddenly care about a daughter you didn't know existed until tonight. Then we'll talk about what role you can have in her life. He nodded, accepting the conditional terms. The suite has everything you need. If you think of something missing, use the phone. Mrs. Romano manages the household. She's been with my family for 20 years. You can trust her. After he left, I returned to the bedroom where Lily slept, her dark curls spread across white pillows, her breathing deep and even. She looked peaceful, innocent, unaware of the danger that now shadowed her existence. I'd built a life protecting her from the harsh realities of the world, and in one night, all those carefully constructed walls had crumbled. I lay down beside her, staring at the ceiling, mind racing through everything that had happened. The gala, the recognition, the gunshot. Lucas's revelations about organized crime and family obligations. The casual way he'd accepted that violence might be necessary to protect us. This wasn't the life I'd planned. This wasn't the safe, predictable existence I'd worked so hard to build. But as I listened to Lily's breathing and felt the security of locked doors and armed guards beyond them, I had to admit a terrible truth. For the first time in 10 years, I didn't feel alone. Morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, gentler than I expected given the circumstances. Lily's weight pressed against my side where she'd migrated during the night, seeking comfort even in sleep. I lay still, cataloging the unfamiliar sounds of this house, the distant hum of activity that suggested a household already awake and working. A soft knock drew my attention. I extracted myself carefully from Lily's embrace and padded to the door, opening it to find an older woman with steel-gray hair, pulled into an elegant knot. She wore a simple black dress and sensible shoes, her expression warm but professional. "Good morning, Miss Turner. I'm Mrs. Romano, the estate manager. I've brought breakfast and some clothing options for you and your daughter." She gestured to a cart beside her laden with covered dishes and shopping bags. "Thank you, but you didn't need to." Mr. Valentassi was quite insistent. She wheeled the cart inside with practiced efficiency. "He mentioned your daughter is 9. I've selected several comfortable outfits, nothing too formal. Growing girls need practicality." I watched her set up breakfast on the sitting room table, with the kind of competence that came from years of managing households. "How long have you worked for Lucas?" 20 years, since before his father passed. Here, she poured coffee with steady hands. "I've watched him grow from an impulsive young man into someone who takes his responsibilities seriously. He means well, even when his methods are unconventional." The careful diplomacy suggested she knew far more than she'd ever say. "Did you know about me? About Lily?" Mrs. Romano met my eyes directly. "Not until last night. But I've known for years that something haunted him. Some choice he regretted. Perhaps that was you." She moved toward the door. "He's asked that you and Lily join him for lunch at noon, if you're comfortable with that. The stables are behind the house if your daughter would like to see the horses. There's a pony named Caramel that's quite gentle." After she left, I woke Lily and we shared breakfast in comfortable silence. The food was excellent, far beyond the usual toast and cereal routine we maintained at home. Fresh fruit, warm pastries, eggs prepared exactly how Lily liked them. Someone had been paying attention to details I hadn't even shared. "Can we really see the horses?" Lily asked, her eyes bright with hope. "After you eat and get dressed." I sorted through the clothing Mrs. Romano had provided, finding jeans and soft sweaters in Lily's size, along with similar options for myself. Everything fit perfectly, a fact that should have disturbed me more than it did. We ventured downstairs an hour later, following Mrs. Romano's directions toward the back of the house. The ground stretched further than I'd realized in last night's darkness. Carefully maintained lawns giving way to gardens, and eventually to stables, constructed of the same pale stone as the main building. A young woman in riding gear looked up as we approached. her smile genuine. "You must be Lily. Mr. Valentasi mentioned you might want to meet Caramel." The pony in question was a sturdy brown animal with intelligent eyes and a gentle temperament. Lily's face lit up as the handler showed her how to stroke his nose, explaining about horses with the patience of someone who genuinely loved her work. I stood back, watching my daughter's delight, and tried to reconcile this world with the danger Lucas had described. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter discreetly, but here in the stable yard, everything felt peaceful. Normal even. "She's beautiful with him." Lucas's voice came from behind me, and I turned to find him dressed casually in jeans and a dark sweater, looking more approachable than he had in his tuxedo or blood-stained suit. Natural with animals, like her mother. "Don't do that." I kept my voice low, aware of Lily nearby. "Don't pretend you know her based on genetics and 10 minutes of observation." "You're right." He moved to stand beside me, maintaining careful distance. "I don't know her, but I'd like to, if you'll let me." I watched Lily feed Caramel an apple slice under the handler's supervision. "She asked about you constantly when she was younger. Where's Daddy? Why did he leave? Does he think about us?" I ran out of ways to explain your absence without making you the villain. "I am the villain, Jessica. In your story, in hers, I'm the father who wasn't there. The man who chose something else over his family." He shoved his hands in his pockets. "But I'm here now, and I'm asking for the chance to be better. To be present. For how long? Until the next threat emerges? Until your organization demands something that conflicts with fatherhood?" I faced him fully. "What happens when being a parent inconveniences your business, Lucas? What will you choose then?" His jaw set. "I would choose differently now. I can't change the past, but I can control my future. Our future if you give me that chance." Before I could respond, Lily called out, "Mom, look, Caramel likes me." We both turned to watch her, and in that moment, I saw genuine emotion on Lucas's face. Not the controlled mask he'd worn at the hotel or during his careful explanations last night, but raw longing for connection with the daughter he'd never known. "She's remarkable," he said quietly. "Brave, kind, curious. You raised her well." "I raised her alone," I corrected, but the words lacked heat. Anger was exhausting, and I'd been tired for so long. We spent another hour at the stables before returning to the house. Lucas had arranged for a tutor to work with Lily on her schoolwork, ensuring she wouldn't fall behind during our unexpected stay. A middle-aged woman named Patricia arrived with materials and patient enthusiasm that won Lily over immediately. While Lily studied, Lucas invited me to his office, a masculine space of dark wood and leather that smelled of old books and that same cedar cologne. He gestured to a comfortable chair before settling behind his desk. "I want to explain how things work," he began. "Not the sanitized version, but the truth. You deserve to understand what protecting you entails." I nodded, steeling myself for whatever revelations would come. "My family has operated in Boston for 3 generations, starting with my grandfather, who immigrated from Italy after the war. He built legitimate businesses, but also controlled certain operations that stayed under official radar. Import, export, distribution of goods that weren't always legal." Lucas spoke matter-of-factly, as if discussing weather rather than organized crime. "My father expanded the empire, diversified investments, created a network that touched everything from construction to shipping to nightclubs. And you inherited all of it when he died." "Yes. Along with the enemies he'd made, the territories he'd claimed, the obligations he'd created." He opened a folder on his desk, showing me photographs and documents I couldn't fully process. "The triad of the Green Dragon has been expanding into traditional Italian family territories across the East Coast. They want access to our ports, our distribution networks. They've been pressuring smaller families, absorbing their operations through intimidation and violence. And they think they can intimidate you. They're trying. Last night was their opening move, demonstrating they could reach me anywhere. But they miscalculated by making the attempt where you and Lily could be seen." His expression hardened. "In my world, family is sacred. Targeting a man's child crosses a line that invites retaliation. I absorbed this, trying to understand the rules of a game I'd never wanted to play. So what happens now? I've requested a meeting with their leadership. It's happening this afternoon in neutral territory. I'll offer them concessions, territory they can have without bloodshed, in exchange for leaving my immediate family untouched. He met my eyes steadily. That includes you and Lily. And if they refuse, then I remind them why my family has held power for 70 years. Not through violence alone, but through strategic thinking and willingness to protect what's ours at any cost. The casual way he discussed potential violence chilled me, yet I couldn't deny the security his power provided. Will it work? The negotiation? Probably. They made their point. I'll make mine. We'll reach an understanding that allows both organizations to profit without further conflict. He stood, moving to the window. But there's something else you need to know. The DNA results came back this morning. My breath caught. That was fast. I have resources that expedite these things. Lily is mine, officially confirmed with 99.9% certainty. He turned to face me. I've already begun paperwork to establish her as my legal heir, with trust funds and inheritance rights that will protect her regardless of what happens to me. You're moving awfully fast. I lost 10 years, Jessica. I won't waste another day. His intensity made the office feel smaller. I'm also arranging security for your clinic, for Sarah, for anyone connected to you. They won't be collateral damage in my world. The thought of Sarah caught up in this nightmare sent panic through me. She doesn't deserve this. She's been nothing but supportive, and now she's in danger because of me. She's safe. I've had people watching her since last night. No one will touch her. He came closer, his presence overwhelming in the quiet room. You need to understand something. Everyone important to you is important to me now. Not as leverage, not as pawns, but as extensions of my family. I protect family, even family you've known for less than 24 hours. Even then. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered against my cheek, warm and gentle. I know you don't trust me. You shouldn't, given everything I've done and haven't done. But I'm asking you to try, to let me prove that I'm worth trusting this time. The air between us felt charged with unspoken possibilities. 10 years of anger and hurt warred with the undeniable attraction that had never completely died, that flickered back to life under his touch. I stepped back, needing distance to think clearly. Focus on keeping Lily safe. Everything else can wait. Disappointment flickered across his features, quickly masked. Of course. Her safety is paramount. The rest of the day passed in a strange domesticity that felt both surreal and comfortable. Lily finished her lessons, excited by Patricia's teaching methods. We had lunch in a sunlit conservatory, Lucas asking careful questions about Lily's interests, her friends, her favorite subjects. He listened with genuine attention, filing away information about his daughter's life with the same focus he probably applied to business strategies. I called Sarah during a quiet moment, reassuring her that we were fine, that Lucas was handling the situation. She sounded relieved but worried, promising to manage the clinic as long as necessary. He's really Lily's father? She asked quietly. Yes. DNA confirmed it this morning. And you? How are you handling seeing him again? I didn't have an answer that made sense. I don't know yet. Ask me when this is over. Evening brought Lucas's return from his meeting with the Triad. He found me in the library, browsing shelves filled with first editions and rare volumes. The tension in his shoulders suggested the negotiations had been difficult. It's done, he said without preamble. They accepted my terms. You and Lily are off limits, declared family under my protection. They understand the consequences of violating that agreement. Relief flooded through me. So we can go home? Not yet. Give it a few days to ensure they honor their word. But yes. Soon you can return to your life. He poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter, his movements controlled. Unless you'd prefer to stay. The invitation hung between us, loaded with implications. Why would we stay? Because Lily deserves to know her father. Because this house is safer than your apartment. Because... He stopped, taking a long drink. Because I'm asking you to give me a chance to be part of your lives in a meaningful way. I studied him. This man who'd broken my heart and now offered protection and connection. What does that look like, Lucas? You being part of our lives while running a criminal organization? Lily having a father who solves problems with violence? It looks like balance. Like teaching her that the world is complicated, that good people sometimes make morally gray choices for the right reasons. He set down his glass. I won't lie to our daughter about who I am or what I do, but I can show her that I'm trying to be better, to build something legitimate for her to inherit instead of just power and danger. Our daughter. He kept claiming that connection, and each time it felt a little less jarring. She already loves you, I admitted. She spent the afternoon talking about how patient you were explaining about horses, how you knew exactly which book she'd like in the library. You're becoming real to her, not just the phantom father from photographs. And you? His voice dropped lower. Am I becoming real to you again? The question demanded honesty I wasn't ready to give. You never stopped being real, Lucas. That was the problem. I spent 10 years trying to hate you, and I couldn't quite manage it. I was too angry, too hurt, too busy raising our daughter to properly despise you. I moved toward the door, needing escape from the intensity of his gaze. But I'm not ready to forgive you either. Not yet. I can wait, he said quietly. I'm patient when it matters. That night, lying beside Lily in the enormous bed, I thought about patience and forgiveness and the complicated reality of loving someone who'd caused terrible pain. Lucas had destroyed me once through absence. Letting him back into our lives risked new destruction. Different, but potentially more devastating. But seeing Lily's joy at knowing her father, watching Lucas transform in her presence from cold authority to gentle parent, I began to wonder if some risks were worth taking, if some relationships deserved second chances, however cautiously granted. The secure phone in my suite rang at 3 a.m, jarring me from restless sleep. Lucas's voice came through tight with controlled urgency. Get Lily and meet me in the panic room. Now. Don't ask questions. Just move. I didn't waste time on fear. Years of single motherhood had taught me to act first and process later. I scooped Lily from her bed, wrapping her in a blanket as she mumbled sleepy protests. Mom, what's happening? Just stay quiet, baby. We need to go somewhere safe. The panic room was exactly where Lucas had shown me during our initial tour, concealed behind what looked like a linen closet. The heavy door swung open at my approach, revealing Lucas and Joseph inside, both armed, both wearing expressions that made my stomach clench. The triad broke the agreement, Lucas said without preamble, pulling us inside. The door sealed with a pneumatic hiss, locks engaging automatically. They've breached the perimeter. 3 vehicles, approximately 15 armed men. I held Lily tighter, feeling her trembling against me. You said they accepted your terms. You said we were safe. I was wrong. The admission cost him. I could see it in the rigid set of his shoulders. They never intended to honor the truce. It was a delaying tactic while they positioned resources for a coordinated strike. Through monitors lining one wall, I watched security feed showing men in dark clothing advancing across the grounds. Gunfire erupted, brief flashes illuminating the darkness. Lucas's guards returned fire from fortified positions, but the attackers kept coming with disciplined precision. How long can we hold? Joseph asked, studying the screens with professional assessment. Long enough. Lucas moved to a weapons locker, checking ammunition with practiced efficiency. I've called in reinforcements. 20 minutes, maybe less. 20 minutes felt like an eternity, watching men die on those screens. I turned Lily away from the monitors, pressing her face against my shoulder. Don't look, sweetheart. Just keep your eyes closed. She nodded against me, small hands fisting in my shirt. Lucas noticed, his expression softening briefly before hardening again. They won't get inside. This room is built to withstand sustained assault. But when my people arrive, it's going to get loud. Why are they doing this? I demanded. What could possibly be worth this level of violence? Control. Territory. Revenge for perceived slights going back generations. He checked his weapon, movements mechanical. And now, leverage. They know about Lily, about you. They think taking my family will force me to surrender my operations. So this is my fault. If I hadn't brought her to that gala... No, Lucas cut me off firmly. This is their choice, their escalation. You're not responsible for the actions of violent men, Jessica. The building shook as something exploded outside. Lily whimpered, and I sang softly to her, an old lullaby my mother had sung to me. Lucas watched us, pain etched in every line of his face. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I thought I could protect you both without this. I miscalculated their desperation. Save the apologies. Just get us through this alive." The next 15 minutes passed in tense silence, broken only by gunfire and the steady commentary Joseph provided based on security feeds. Lucas's guards were holding position, inflicting casualties, but the attackers kept pressing forward with suicidal determination. Then, suddenly, the tide shifted. New vehicles appeared on the monitors, reinforcements arriving with overwhelming force. The Triad soldiers found themselves caught between Lucas's estate guards and fresh fighters who moved with military precision. "That's Anthony," Lucas said with visible relief. "My consigliere. He brought everyone." The battle ended as quickly as it had begun. The surviving attackers retreated, leaving bodies scattered across the formerly pristine grounds. Lucas waited another 10 minutes, confirming the all-clear before unsealing the panic room. Mrs. Romano met us in the hallway, her usually composed expression tight with concern. "The guest rooms are secure. I've prepared tea and something calming for the child." "Thank you." I followed her, too numb to feel anything beyond gratitude that Lily was unharmed. Lucas stayed behind, coordinating cleanup and security enhancements with grim efficiency. By dawn, the grounds showed no evidence of the violence that had occurred. Bodies removed, bullet casings collected, damaged landscaping already being repaired. The machine of Lucas's organization operated with disturbing effectiveness. I found him in his office, staring at reports with hollow eyes. "How many?" I asked from the doorway. "4 of mine dead, 7 injured. The Triad lost 11. He set down the papers. "Unacceptable losses on both sides. What happens now?" Now I respond in a way they can't ignore or dismiss. His voice was cold, empty of the warmth I'd glimpsed over the past week. "I eliminate their leadership, destroy their infrastructure, and send a message that attacking my family invites total destruction." The casual discussion of murder should have horrified me. A week ago it would have. But watching armed men storm the house where my daughter slept had recalibrated my sense of acceptable violence. "I want to leave," I said quietly. "This isn't sustainable, Lucas. Living like this, constantly under threat, waiting for the next attack. Lily deserves better than growing up in a war zone. You think leaving makes you safer?" He stood, moving around the desk. "They know about you now, Jessica. Leaving just removes my protection without eliminating the threat. Then what are you suggesting? That we stay here indefinitely? That Lily grows up behind gates and armed guards, never knowing normal life? I'm suggesting you let me eliminate the threat permanently. Give me time to dismantle the Triad's operations, to ensure they lack the resources and leadership to ever threaten us again." He reached for my hands, and I let him take them. 1 week. That's all I need. And then you choose. Stay here where I can protect you both, or return to your life with security measures in place. But don't make the choice now, not while you're terrified and exhausted. Wait until the immediate danger has passed. I pulled my hands back. I need to talk to Sarah, check on the clinic. I need something normal to anchor me before I lose my mind. He nodded, gesturing to the phone on his desk. "Use my line." "It's secure," Sarah answered on the second ring, her voice thick with sleep. "Jessica? Is everything okay?" "Define okay," I said with bitter humor. "We're alive. That counts for something. I saw the news. Multiple casualties at a Brookline estate, though they're not releasing the address." "Was that?" "Yes. The people Lucas warned about decided negotiations weren't working fast enough." I sank into Lucas's chair, suddenly unable to stand. "Sarah, I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to grab Lily and run as far as possible. But Lucas says that just makes us easier targets. He's probably right," she said carefully. "As much as I hate admitting it. Jessica, you're dealing with organized crime. Normal rules don't apply. Maybe staying under his protection until the situation stabilizes is the smart move. When did you become Team Lucas?" "When I realized he's kept you alive this long. Look, I don't trust him. I think he's dangerous and probably has done terrible things. But he clearly cares about you and Lily. That counts for something in this situation." We talked for another 20 minutes, Sarah updating me on clinic operations and reassuring me that everything was under control. Her normalcy grounded me, reminded me that a world existed beyond violence and fear. After hanging up, I found Lily in the library with Patricia, working on math problems as if last night's attack had never happened. The resilience of children never ceased to amaze me. "How is she?" Lucas asked, appearing beside me so quietly I jumped. "Better than I am," I admitted. "She's adaptable in ways I've forgotten how to be." We watched her in silence. This daughter we'd created and lost and found again. "I'm leaving in an hour," Lucas said finally. "Anthony and I are meeting with our captains to coordinate the response. I'll be gone most of the day." "Be careful," I said, the words automatic. He looked at me with surprise and something else. Something warmer. "You're worried about me. I'm worried about what happens to Lily if you get yourself killed playing Mafia war games." But the words lacked conviction. Somewhere in the past week, despite everything, I'd started caring about Lucas Valentasi again. Not the boy I'd loved in college, but the complicated, dangerous man he'd become. "I'll come back," he promised. I always do. The day passed with agonizing slowness. Patricia kept Lily occupied with lessons and games. Mrs. Romano ensured we ate despite lack of appetite. I paced the library, unable to concentrate on anything beyond worry. Evening brought Lucas's return, along with a man I hadn't met before. Tall, silver-haired, with sharp eyes that assessed everything. Lucas introduced him as Anthony Pellegrini, his consigliere and right hand. "Mrs. Turner." Anthony greeted me with old-world courtesy. "I apologize for meeting under such circumstances. Lucas speaks very highly of you." "Does he?" I glanced at Lucas, who had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "He does. Constantly, in fact. It's become rather tedious." Anthony's dry humor surprised me into a small smile. "I've known Lucas since he was 15, watched him transform from reckless boy into capable leader. I've never seen him as focused or determined as he's been this past week. You and your daughter have given him something worth protecting beyond territory or power." The insight into Lucas's private thoughts unsettled me. "What's the situation?" I asked, changing the subject. "Under control," Lucas answered. "We've identified the Triad's local leadership and primary operations. Tomorrow we move against their infrastructure simultaneously. Within 48 hours, they'll lack the resources to threaten anyone, and the leadership will no longer be a problem," Anthony said delicately. I didn't ask for clarification. Some details I preferred not knowing. "When this is over, Lucas and I need to have a serious conversation about the future, about what role he plays in Lily's life, and what boundaries exist." "Of course," Lucas agreed readily. "Whatever you decide, I'll respect. But first, let me finish this. Let me make sure you're both truly safe." That night, after Lily fell asleep, I stood on the suite's small balcony, breathing in cold autumn air. The grounds below showed no trace of the battle that had occurred hours earlier. Lucas's world operated on principles of plausible deniability and invisible violence, problems solved before they became public knowledge. A soft sound made me turn to find Lucas in the doorway. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. Too much adrenaline still working through my system. I wrapped my arms around myself. This isn't the life I imagined when I looked at Lily's ultrasound 10 years ago. Single motherhood, yes. Financial struggles, absolutely. But not this. Not armed guards in panic rooms and men dying on security monitors. I know. He joined me at the railing, careful to maintain distance. "I never wanted this for you either. If I could go back, change the choices I made, but you can't." I cut him off gently. "None of us can. We just have to figure out how to move forward from where we are now." "And where is that, Jessica? Where are we?" The question demanded honesty neither of us might be ready for. "I don't know yet. Ask me when people stop trying to kill us. When I can think clearly without fear clouding every decision." He nodded, accepting the non-answer. "Fair enough. But for what it's worth, having you here, seeing you with Lily, it's made me realize what I gave up 10 years ago, what I lost by being too afraid to fight for what mattered. Don't romanticize this, Lucas. We're not some star-crossed lovers reuniting. We're two people dealing with an impossible situation while trying to protect a child. I know, but that doesn't mean I can't hope for more when the impossible becomes merely difficult." He touched my hand briefly, a whisper of contact. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be easier. I doubted that, but I appreciated the lie. As I watched him return to his office to continue planning whatever violence tomorrow would bring, I wondered if forgiveness was possible between us. If trust could be rebuilt from the shattered pieces of abandonment and betrayal. If love, once broken, could ever truly heal. The answer eluded me. Lost somewhere between fear and hope. Between the woman I'd been and whoever I was becoming in this strange new world where danger and safety wore the same face. 3 weeks after the attack, life had settled into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Lucas's promised retaliation against the triad had been swift and comprehensive, executed with the kind of precision that spoke to decades of organizational experience. I didn't ask for details, and he didn't volunteer them. All I knew was that the threat had been neutralized, the triad's Boston operations dismantled, and their leadership no longer capable of threatening anyone. I'd begun returning to the clinic 3 days a week, driven by a security detail so discreet I sometimes forgot they were there. Sarah greeted my first day back with a fierce hug and questions I couldn't fully answer about the past month. Patients welcomed me with the comfortable familiarity of small-town veterinary practice, their concerns about sick cats and aging dogs refreshingly mundane. But evenings found me at Lucas's estate, a decision I'd made consciously rather than out of necessity. Lily had flourished under his attention, her initial wariness transforming into genuine affection. She called him Dad now without prompting, and the joy in Lucas's eyes every time he heard that word made my chest ache. Tonight was different. Lucas had arranged something special, a charity event at the Fairmont, the same hotel where our lives had collided so spectacularly. The irony wasn't lost on me as I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the emerald silk gown he'd sent, taking Mrs. Romano's advice to avoid the predictable navy. "You look beautiful, Mom," Lily said from her position on my bed, where she was supposedly doing homework, but mostly watching me get ready. "You think so?" I smoothed the fabric over my hips, still adjusting to clothing that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "Dad's gonna think so too." She grinned, her matchmaking obvious even at 9 years old. Lucas had given her that confidence, that security of knowing both parents wanted her and each other. It terrified me how quickly we'd all adapted to this new reality. A knock at the suite door announced Lucas himself, devastating in a charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders. His eyes swept over me with appreciation that sent heat flooding through my body. "You're stunning," he said simply. "Are you ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be for returning to the scene of our first disaster." I grabbed my wrap, kissing Lily goodbye. Mrs. Romano would supervise her evening routine with the kind efficiency that had become comforting rather than intrusive. The drive to the Fairmont passed in comfortable silence. Lucas's hand rested on mine, a casual intimacy we'd developed over weeks of shared dinners and quiet conversations after Lily went to bed. We hadn't discussed what we were becoming, preferring to let the relationship evolve without pressure or expectations. The ballroom looked different from my memories. Or perhaps I was different. Instead of feeling out of place, I moved through the crowd with Lucas at my side, meeting business associates and their wives with the composure I'd learned from watching him navigate these social waters. "Jessica." A familiar voice made me turn to find Sarah approaching, stunning in a charcoal dress that brought out the color in her dark eyes. Lucas invited me. "I hope you don't mind." "Mind? I'm thrilled." I hugged her, grateful for the anchor of friendship in this sea of strangers. "You look amazing." "You do too. This whole situation suits you better than I expected." She glanced at Lucas, who'd been pulled into conversation with a state senator. "He really cares about you, you know. It's obvious to anyone watching." Before I could respond, a man approached our group, silver-haired and distinguished, with the kind of presence that commanded attention. Lucas stiffened almost imperceptibly beside me, his hand finding the small of my back in a protective gesture. "Lucas," the man greeted him with cool civility. "I heard about your troubles with the triad. Unfortunate business. Franco." Lucas's voice was carefully neutral. "I didn't expect to see you here. I'm a patron of animal welfare, same as anyone." Franco's eyes shifted to me, assessing. "And this must be the woman who's captured Boston's most eligible bachelor. Jessica Turner, if the rumors are accurate." Something in his tone set my nerves on edge. Lucas's tension radiated through his touch on my back. "This is a social event," he said quietly. "Let's keep it that way." "Of course. I merely wanted to offer congratulations on your new family situation. A daughter, I understand." 9 years old. Franco's smile didn't reach his eyes. "It must be challenging, discovering fatherhood so unexpectedly." "It's been a blessing," I interjected, unwilling to let this man's subtle menace go unchallenged. "Lily is remarkable, and Lucas has been wonderful with her." "I'm sure." Franco's attention returned to Lucas. "We should talk business sometime soon. There are matters from the old days that require addressing. Your father and I had an understanding that I believe you've been ignoring." "My father's understandings died with him," Lucas replied coldly. "I run things differently. Yes, I've noticed. More legitimate, more cautious. Some might say softer." Franco's implications were clear. "It makes one wonder if domestic life has weakened your instincts." The temperature around us seemed to drop. Other guests noticed the tension, conversations faltering as attention shifted toward our group. Lucas's hand on my back pressed slightly. A signal I'd learned meant he wanted me to step away from potential conflict. "If you'll excuse us," Lucas said smoothly. "I promised Jessica a dance." He guided me toward the dance floor before Franco could respond, his movements controlled but urgent. Once we were surrounded by other couples, he pulled me close, his jaw tight with suppressed anger. "Who is he?" I asked quietly. "Franco Caruso, an old associate of my father's who thought he had permanent influence over family operations." Lucas's voice was low, meant only for me. "He's been pushing for meetings, trying to leverage past agreements into current power. I've been refusing, and he's not taking it well." "What kind of agreements?" "The kind that involved questionable business practices and moral compromises my father was willing to make." "I'm not." His eyes met mine. "I meant what I told you, Jessica. I'm transitioning operations toward legitimacy. Franco represents everything I'm trying to leave behind. Will he be a problem? Probably. But nothing I can't handle." He pulled me closer as the music swelled. "I won't let him threaten what we're building. Not our family, not our future. Our family, our future." The possessive pronouns felt less jarring each time he used them. "What are we building, Lucas?" I asked, needing to name the undefined thing between us. "Something real," he said simply. "Something worth protecting. Unless you want something different?" The question demanded honesty I'd been avoiding. "I don't know what I want anymore. A month ago, I had my life planned out. Single mother, dedicated veterinarian, small apartment and smaller dreams. Now I'm living in a mansion, wearing designer gowns and falling for the man who broke my heart 10 years ago." "Falling for?" He pulled back slightly to see my face. Present tense. "Don't look so smug." But I couldn't stop the smile tugging at my lips. "I'm terrified, Lucas. Of trusting you again. Of Lily getting hurt. Of this world you live in. But I'm also happier than I've been in years. That scares me most of all." "It scares me too," he admitted. "Every morning I wake up certain you'll realize you deserve better than a former criminal trying to go legitimate. That you'll take Lily and leave, and I'll lose you both again." His hand cupped my cheek. "But I'm asking you to take the risk anyway. To give us a real chance." Before I could respond, the music ended, and polite applause rippled through the ballroom. Lucas led me off the dance floor, his hand still clasped in mine. Sarah found us near the bar, her expression concerned. "That man who was talking to you earlier, Franco something, he's been watching you both all night. It's creepy." I followed her gaze to find Franco indeed staring at us from across the room, his expression calculating. Unease prickled down my spine. "Lucas says he's an old associate causing problems. He looks like the kind of problem that doesn't go away easily," Sarah observed. She wasn't wrong. Over the next hour, Franco made his presence known through subtle intimidation. Casual comments to mutual acquaintances about Lucas's management style. Questions about my relationship with Lucas that bordered on inappropriate. By the time we left the event, my nerves were frayed, and Lucas's controlled fury was evident in every rigid line of his body. "He's going to escalate," Lucas said during the drive home. "That display tonight was a warning shot. Franco wants me to know he can reach me, reach my family, anytime he chooses. What are you going to do?" "Handle it." He squeezed my hand, but carefully, legally if possible. I won't give him ammunition to use against me, and I won't expose you and Lily to unnecessary danger. The next morning brought clarity to Franco's intentions. Lucas received an envelope containing photographs, taken over the past 3 weeks. Me leaving the clinic, Lily at her new school, both of us in the estate gardens. The message was clear. Franco had been watching, documenting, threatening. I found Lucas in his office, staring at the photographs with an expression that made me grateful I wasn't Franco Caruso. "He's trying to intimidate you through us," I said, stating the obvious. "It's not going to work." Lucas looked up, his eyes burning with determination. "But I need to handle this differently than I would have before you and Lily. I can't just eliminate the problem through force. I need evidence of his crimes, leverage to ensure he backs off permanently without escalating into war. How long will that take? I don't know. But I have resources, people who can dig into Franco's operations and find what I need." He stood, moving around the desk. "In the meantime, I'm increasing security. For you, for Lily, for the clinic. I'm not living in fear again," I protested. "We just got past that with the triad. This is different. Franco is playing a longer game, using information and influence rather than direct violence." Lucas took my hands. "Let me protect you while I dismantle his ability to threaten us. Please, Jessica." The vulnerability in his request undid my resistance. "Okay, but I want to help. My life, my daughter, my risk to take too. Understanding passed between us. The acknowledgement that we were partners in this now, not just victim and protector. Whatever came next, we'd face it together, with all the complicated, messy reality that entailed. 2 weeks into investigating Franco Caruso, I discovered I had a talent for research I'd never known existed. While Lucas worked his networks and Anthony deployed professional investigators, I approached the problem from a different angle, using publicly available records and legal databases to trace Franco's legitimate business holdings. "You found something," Lucas said, appearing in the library where I'd spread documents across 3 tables. It was past midnight, but sleep felt impossible when I was close to connecting the pieces. "Franco owns 17 businesses across Boston," I explained, pointing to my hand-drawn chart. "Restaurants, construction companies, import firms, all legitimate on the surface. But look at the pattern of acquisitions." I traced the timeline with my finger. Every property he purchased in the past 5 years was previously owned by people who filed bankruptcy within months of selling to him. Lucas studied my notes, understanding dawning in his expression. He's forcing them out, creating financial pressure until they have no choice but to sell it below market value. Exactly. And when I cross-referenced with court records, 3 of those former owners filed harassment complaints before dropping them. 2 mentioned threats against family members. I pulled out another document. The complaints were dismissed for lack of evidence, but the pattern is clear. Franco builds his empire through systematic intimidation. This is excellent work, Jessica. Lucas's pride was evident, but harassment complaints aren't sufficient to neutralize him. We need proof of criminal activity, something that would interest federal prosecutors. "What about tax evasion?" I suggested. "These businesses report consistent losses year after year, yet Franco maintains a lifestyle that suggests significant income. Where's the money coming from, if not these supposedly failing enterprises?" "Now you're thinking like a prosecutor." He kissed my forehead, a casual gesture of affection that still made my pulse quicken. "I'll have Anthony's people dig into the financial records, see if we can find evidence of unreported income or money laundering." Over the next week, the investigation intensified. Anthony brought in a forensic accountant who confirmed my suspicions about Franco's finances. The businesses were shells, funneling cash from illegal operations while reporting minimal profit to avoid taxation. It was elegant in its simplicity and absolutely prosecutable if we could prove intent. Meanwhile, Franco continued his campaign of subtle threats. More photographs arrived, showing Lily at school, me at the clinic. Casual comments from mutual acquaintances about how dangerous Boston could be for unprotected families. The message was always the same. Lucas couldn't keep us safe forever. "He's escalating," I told Lucas one evening as we reviewed the latest envelope of surveillance photos. "These are more invasive than before. Closer shots, more detailed locations. I know. Lucas's voice was tight with controlled fury. He wants me to react emotionally, to make a mistake he can exploit. But we're close, Jessica. The accountant found offshore accounts tied to Franco's primary shell corporation. With that evidence, we can build a case strong enough for the federal prosecutors to act. How long? Days, maybe a week. Anthony is coordinating with contacts in the FBI, ensuring the evidence gets to the right people. He pulled me close, his embrace protective and reassuring. I promised I'd handle this legally, without unnecessary violence. I'm keeping that promise. The break came unexpectedly. Franco, confident in his untouchability, made an error. One of his enforcers approached a business owner Sarah knew, a woman who operated a pet supply store near my clinic. The enforcer threatened her family unless she sold her property to Franco at a fraction of its value. And unlike previous victims, she recorded the conversation. Sarah brought her to me, and together we brought her to Lucas. The recording was damning, clear evidence of extortion tied directly to Franco's organization. Combined with the financial evidence of tax evasion and money laundering, it was exactly what we needed. This woman is incredibly brave, Lucas told me after listening to the recording. But she's also now in danger. Franco will retaliate if he discovers she went to authorities. Then we protect her, I said firmly, the same way you protect us. She doesn't suffer for doing the right thing. Lucas nodded, already making arrangements for security detail. Watching him coordinate protection for a stranger, seeing him choose the legal path over expedient violence, I realized how much he'd changed. Or perhaps how much I'd learned about the man he truly was beneath the dangerous reputation. The federal arrests came on a Wednesday morning. FBI agents raided Franco's businesses simultaneously, seizing records and arresting key personnel on charges of extortion, tax evasion, and money laundering. Franco himself was taken from his home in handcuffs, his carefully constructed facade of respectability crumbling under the weight of evidence we'd helped compile. I watched the news coverage with Lily, who didn't fully understand what was happening but sensed my relief. "Is that the bad man who was bothering us?" she asked, pointing to footage of Franco being led into federal custody. "Yes, sweetheart, but he can't bother anyone anymore. The police have him now." Lucas joined us, wrapping his arms around both of us from behind. "It's over," he said quietly. "The prosecutors have enough evidence to ensure Franco spends the next decade in prison. His organization is dismantled, his assets frozen. He's no longer a threat." "You did it," I said, turning in his embrace. "You handled it exactly the way you promised, legally, without unnecessary violence." "We did it," he corrected. "Your research, Sarah's contact, that brave woman who recorded the extortion. This was a team effort, Jessica. And it proves something important." "What's that?" "That I can operate differently. That building something legitimate, relying on law and evidence instead of force, it works. It's what I want for Lily's future. A family business she can be proud of, not an empire built on fear." The words moved me more than I expected. Lucas was choosing a different path, not just for himself, but for our daughter, for the family we were becoming. That night, after Lily went to bed, Lucas and I sat in the library with Sarah and Anthony, celebrating the successful resolution of the Franco situation. Sarah looked between Lucas and me with knowing eyes. "You two have come a long way from that first night at the gala," she observed. "Jessica's less terrified, Lucas is less intimidating, and Lily has both parents who clearly adore her. It's been a journey," I agreed, my hand finding Lucas's automatically. "So what happens now?" Anthony asked. "With Franco neutralized and the triad destroyed, you have breathing room, Lucas. Time to make decisions about the future without immediate threats forcing your hand." Lucas looked at me, the question in his eyes clear. "That depends on Jessica, on what she wants for her life, for Lily's life. I've made my position clear. I want them here, permanently, but that choice belongs to her." All eyes turned to me, waiting for an answer I'd been avoiding for weeks. Did I want to continue this strange new life with Lucas? Accept his world, his protection, his love, or return to the independence I'd fought so hard to maintain? The answer surprised me with its clarity. "I want to stay," I said quietly, "not because I'm afraid or dependent, but because this is where we belong. Lily deserves to know her father, and I deserve a second chance at loving you. It won't always be easy, and we'll have to figure out boundaries and expectations. But yes, Lucas, I want to build a life with you." The joy in his expression was unguarded, transforming him from dangerous authority to the man I'd fallen in love with a decade ago. He pulled me close, kissing me with a tenderness that promised futures and family and forever. Sarah cleared her throat delicately. "I think that's my cue to leave. Congratulations, you crazy kids. Call me tomorrow, Jessica." After she and Anthony departed, Lucas and I sat in comfortable silence, his arm around my shoulders, my head on his chest. "There's something I need to tell you," he said eventually, "about my plans for the business." I looked up at him. "What plans?" "I'm transitioning everything to legitimate operations within the next 2 years. Hotels, real estate development, import companies that only handle legal goods. Anthony will manage the dismantling of remaining criminal enterprises. By the time Lily is 11, she'll inherit a completely clean organization." The magnitude of what he was offering took my breath away. "That's a huge undertaking. Your entire empire, everything your father and grandfather built, isn't worth losing you and Lily." His voice was firm, certain. "I've spent 10 years building power, and it's hollow without family to share it with. I want Lily to grow up proud of what we do, not ashamed or afraid. That means changing everything, from the ground up." I kissed him, pouring 10 years of love and loss and hope into that single connection. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were dark with desire and something deeper. "I love you, Jessica Turner," he said. "I loved you 10 years ago, and I love you now. Will you marry me? Not because of Lily, not because of security, but because you're the only woman I've ever wanted to spend my life with." The proposal was imperfect, spontaneous, utterly sincere. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, Lucas Valentasi, I'll marry you." His smile could have lit the entire city. We had challenges ahead, adjustments to make, a life to build from the fragments of past mistakes. But for the first time since he'd disappeared a decade ago, I believed in our future together. Believed that love, however broken, could heal if given the chance. 6 months after Lucas proposed, we stood in the estate's garden where staff had transformed the grounds into something magical. White roses climbed trellises specially constructed for the occasion, champagne petals scattered across a makeshift aisle, and intimate seating for the 40 guests we'd invited suggested celebration rather than spectacle. I wore ivory silk that caught the afternoon light, elegant without being ostentatious. Sarah had helped me choose it from 3 options Lucas provided, her enthusiasm infectious as she declared me the most beautiful bride she'd ever seen. My hands trembled slightly as Mrs. Romano adjusted my veil, offering the kind of maternal support I'd missed since my mother's death. "You look radiant, dear," she said with genuine warmth. "Mr. Valentasi has been pacing since dawn. I've never seen him so nervous." The thought of Lucas nervous made me smile. In the months since his proposal, he'd been steadily transforming his operations, transferring criminal enterprises to legitimate holdings with the methodical precision he applied to everything. Anthony managed the complex legal maneuvering, while Lucas focused on building something Lily could inherit without shame. My expanded veterinary clinic now operated from a larger facility Lucas had purchased and renovated, complete with state-of-the-art equipment and enough space for Sarah to bring on 2 additional veterinarians. The foundation we'd established together provided free care to rescue animals throughout Boston, fulfilling dreams I'd thought impossible during my years of financial struggle. "Mom, you're so pretty!" Lily burst into the room wearing her flower girl dress, a confection of champagne tulle that made her look older than 9. Her dark curls were swept into an elegant updo, tiny white roses woven through the style. "Dad's waiting outside. He says he can't believe he gets to marry you. Dad." She called him that so naturally now, the relationship between them growing stronger daily. Lucas taught her Italian phrases over breakfast, helped with homework in the evenings, read bedtime stories with voices that made her giggle. He was present in ways that mattered, building memories that would sustain her through life. "Is everyone here?" I asked, checking my reflection one final time. "Everyone," Sarah confirmed, appearing in the doorway with her own bouquet. As my maid of honor, she'd been instrumental in planning this wedding, insisting on details that honored both Lucas's world and my simpler preferences. The string quartet is ready. Joseph looks remarkably dapper in his tuxedo, and Anthony has been crying since the ceremony started. Anthony's crying? That surprised me. Lucas's consigliere projected such controlled competence. Apparently he's sentimental about weddings. Sarah grinned. Who knew? Come on, let's get you married before Lucas wears a path in the grass. The garden had been transformed into an intimate sanctuary. Guests rose as I appeared, their faces friendly and welcoming. Associates from Lucas's legitimate businesses mixed with veterinarians from my clinic, Sarah's family, and the few friends I'd maintained through years of single motherhood. Two worlds blending into something new. But I only saw Lucas standing beneath an arch of white roses, his expression arrested as he watched me approach. He wore a tailored suit that emphasized his broad shoulders, his dark hair touched with distinguished silver at the temples. At 38, he'd grown into his authority, projecting confidence tempered by the humility of second chances. Anthony stood beside him as best man, indeed looking misty-eyed. Joseph sat in the front row with Mrs. Romano and Duke, the golden retriever whose injury had inadvertently reconnected me with Lucas. The dog's presence felt appropriate, a reminder of the unlikely circumstances that had brought us to this moment. I walked alone down the aisle, having no father to give me away but needing no one to transfer ownership. This marriage was my choice, freely made, born from love rather than necessity. Lily preceded me, scattering petals with theatrical flair that made guests chuckle. When I reached Lucas, he took my hands, and I saw wonder in his eyes. You're breathtaking, he whispered, voice rough with emotion. You clean up pretty well yourself, I replied, trying to lighten the intensity of the moment. The ceremony was brief, officiated by a judge Lucas knew through business connections. We'd written our own vows, promises that acknowledged our complicated past while embracing our future. Jessica, Lucas began, his voice steady despite the emotion I knew he felt. 10 years ago, I made the worst mistake of my life. I left you when I should have fought for us. I missed the birth of our daughter, her first steps, her first words. I lost years I can never reclaim. But standing here today, I promise you this. I will never leave again. I will protect you and Lily with everything I have. I will build a life worthy of your trust, a legacy worthy of our daughter. I will love you through challenges and joy, through doubt and certainty, for all the days I'm given. You and Lily are my family, my purpose, my redemption. Tears blurred my vision as I began my own vows. Lucas, when you disappeared 10 years ago, you broke something in me I thought couldn't be repaired. I spent a decade building walls, protecting Lily and myself from further hurt. Then you walked back into my life through the most unlikely circumstances, and those walls started crumbling. You've shown me that second chances are real, that love can heal even the deepest wounds. I promise to trust you with my heart, despite our history. I promise to build this life together as partners, not as victim and protector. I promise to love you fully, completely, with all the strength you've taught me I possess. Today I choose you, Lucas Valentasi, not because I need you, but because I want you. That makes all the difference. The judge pronounced us married, and Lucas pulled me close, kissing me with a tenderness that promised private celebrations later. Guests applauded, Lily squealed with delight, and Anthony definitely cried. The reception flowed seamlessly from ceremony, tables arranged in the garden beneath strings of lights that would illuminate the evening. Staff circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres while guests mingled. The atmosphere relaxed despite the formal setting. Sarah cornered me near the bar, her expression both happy and teasing. So, Mrs. Valentasi, how does it feel to be married to Boston's most reformed crime boss? Strange, wonderful, terrifying, I admitted. Ask me again in a year when the reality is settled. Fair. But for what it's worth, I've never seen you happier. Lucas is good for you, Jessica. He makes you brave in ways you weren't before. She was right. Lucas had challenged me to expand beyond the safe boundaries I'd established, to risk vulnerability for the possibility of greater joy. Together we were building something neither of us could have achieved alone. Dinner was elegant but approachable. Mrs. Romano having outdone herself with a menu that blended Italian traditions from Lucas's heritage with American comfort food I preferred. Toasts followed, Anthony speaking eloquently about Lucas's transformation, Sarah making everyone laugh with stories from my years of struggling single motherhood. Then Lucas stood, glass raised, his eyes on Lily, who sat at our table in her place of honor. I want to thank everyone for celebrating with us today, but there's one person who deserves special recognition. Lily, will you come here? Our daughter approached with curiosity, and Lucas crouched to her level, producing a small velvet box. When I married your mother today, I gained not just a wife, but a family. You are my daughter in every way that matters, Lily. I love you more than I knew it was possible to love, and I promise to be the father you deserve, today and always. He opened the box to reveal a delicate necklace, a small lily pendant in white gold. This is a promise, from me to you, that I will always be here, that you can count on me, that you're loved beyond measure. Lily threw her arms around his neck, the kind of spontaneous affection children give freely. I love you too, Dad, she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. As evening settled and dancing began, I found myself in Lucas's arms, swaying to music played by the string quartet. The estate lights glowed warmly, stars appearing overhead, and our daughter danced with Duke, making everyone laugh with her enthusiasm. Happy? Lucas asked, his breath warm against my ear. Incredibly, I admitted, though I never imagined my life would look like this. Better or worse than your plans? I pretended to consider. Better. Definitely better. Though I reserve the right to complain when your business keeps you late, or when Lily decides she wants to join the family organization. She's going to run legitimate hotels and real estate development, not criminal enterprises, he reminded me with mock seriousness. Completely different career path. Still intimidating. She has your eyes and your determination. I pity anyone who underestimates her. She has your compassion and your courage. Together, she's going to be unstoppable. He kissed my temple. Thank you, Jessica, for giving me this second chance, for trusting me with your heart again. I know what it cost you. You've earned it, I said simply. Every day you earn it. That's what matters. Later, as guests departed and staff cleaned up, the three of us sat on the garden steps watching the stars. Lily between us, Lucas's arm around my shoulders, my hand in his. A family forged from mistakes and miracles, from patience and persistence. This is perfect, Lily announced with the certainty of childhood. We're all together now. Forever and ever. Forever and ever. Lucas echoed, meeting my eyes with a promise I finally believed he'd keep. Forever, I agreed, squeezing his hand. The future stretched before us, unknown but no longer frightening. Whatever challenges came, we'd face them together as the family we'd chosen to become. Love hadn't been enough 10 years ago, but time and growth had transformed it into something stronger, deeper, sustainable. We'd found our way back to each other through impossible circumstances, and this time, nothing would tear us apart. This was our beginning, hard-won and precious, built on foundations of honesty and commitment that would weather whatever storms might come. The end